Tov, guys, Baruchim Abayim, to all of you, even those of you in LA, Baruch Hashem, that are watching and tuning in. We are in a chapter right now in B'yam Darkecha, in the parak on Emunat Hachamim, connecting to Hachamim. We learned already what the goal is, which is to seek out the Shekhinah. We want to connect to the Tzaddik in order to connect to the Shekhinah that is dwelling on him. It's not about the human being. It just happens to be that human being has worked on himself so much that the Shekhinah has felt a comfortable place to be, right? And we learned about the importance of all of this. And today we're going to touch on a few different topics within this, which is one is what are the roots, what are the sources for this avodah, for this work, right? Where do we find this in our teachings that we should connect to tzaddikim, to the Hachamim? Two different types of connection to tzaddikim. The idea that the tzaddik is a shadchan, right? That he is a matchmaker, as well as what's called an ibur, and a few other topics. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to go through. We have much more weeks to learn in this topic. It's a deep thing, but it's an essential part of Avodat Hashem, connecting to tzaddikim, and Baruch Hashem, we are going to go in, obviously. Obviously, this is for all of the Chayalim, especially those right now in Gaza, but all of the Chayalim as a cloud. The Chatufim, and the Shvuim, the kidnapped and the hostages, right, so that they may come home safely and completely. Amen. And those who need proper burial will get proper burial. Amen. And also for all of the sick people and all of the injured people that have a refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, B'ezrat Hashem, and all of Am Yisrael that will be zocher for geula shlema, biat Mashiach tzidkenu b'mirav yamenu, binyan beit hamikdash, and gilui malchuto shel Hashem yitbarach ba'olam, B'ezrat Hashem. Amen. Tov, Mikorot, what are the sources for this avodah of what's called Emunat Hachamim, belief of the sages? First makor that we're bringing is from Drashot Aran. Drashot Aran, right? Aran is one of the, I think a Rishon, pretty sure he's a Rishon, right? Who's writing, and Rabbeinu Natan, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Rishonim. אין ספק שראוי שנאמין שכמו שבזמן בית המקדש היה המעון הוא המקודש. It's for sure fitting, and we need to believe, just like in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, that location, that building, was a place that was prepared and ready for shefa nevuah v'chokhmah, the abundance of prophecy and wisdom that was coming down. Ken raui shiyu haneviim v'chasidim muchanim lekabel shefa. So too it should be fitting and proper that the neviim, the prophets, and the chasidim, not chasidim, Baal Shem Tov chasidim, chasidim meaning extra pious people, they should also be a fitting place to receive shefa. עד שבאמצעותם יושפע השפע ההוא על המוכנים לכך. And so the fact that by the way of them being so ready to receive the shefa, right, this abundance of godly light and information and connection coming down on them, that energy should be through them influenced onto others and spread out to others. L'chol b'nei doram, to all of those willing to receive, to all of the ones in the generation. And even more so to those in the generation that are partners with the tzaddik and that they come and want to be closer to him. Right? So here we got the first source from the Ran, the Rishon, that he says, just like the Beit HaMikdash was this place, that if you came to the Beit HaMikdash, you got influenced with shefa, nevuah, and chokhmah, so too the tzaddikim of the generation, they have the same ability, and everyone in the generation can receive from them. Even more so if you're making an effort to receive from them and to take part in their work and what they're doing. More, he says, "Kasher nishtatfu harav v'atalmid b'chokhmah." When the rabbi, the influencer, and the talmid, the student, the receiver, are working together in what's called the chokhmah, wisdom, yimashech hashefa letalmid yoter mima sheraui. The talmid, the student, starts to receive more than what's fitting for him to receive when he's working together with the Rav. Mitzad shu mishtatef lerabo. He is a partner now with his Rav, so he starts to get even more. Ki yitchazek hatalmid mitzad hashefa hanishpa larav. like we learned, right? The Talmid would be strengthened by way of the Shefa that's coming down on the Rav. It's not enough that they're both receiving Shefa. If they're together and they're doing the work together, the Rav is getting a lot of Shefa, and you are the positive side of guilty by association, right? What would be the opposite of guilty? Merited by way of association, right? You hang out with the right people, you're going to get extra. Like we learned with the whole idea of Shaul. Shaul sent these people, these soldiers, to come get David in order to take David into captivity. David and Shaul were in the state of prophecy. Every one of the messengers that were sent, out of 3 sets of messengers, all of them joined David and Shmuel. All of them. They didn't want to, they couldn't attack David, they couldn't, nothing, right? They just came and they saw them doing avodah, they got affected by it.
You can't beat them, join them.
Exactly. כל העמידות שעמד אליהו לפני אחיה השילוני רבו. This is coming from the Radbaz. This is from the Radbaz. He says all of the things that Eliyahu Navi had with his rabbi, Amidot, is like all of these spiritual works, these avodas, right, that Eliyahu Navi did with his rabbi, his name was Achia Hashiloni, which was also the rabbi of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Baal Shem Tov's rabbi was not Eliyahu like most tzaddikim. It was Eliyahu's rabbi, Achia Hashiloni. Ki'ilu amad lifnei hashchina. Anything that they did together, Eliyahu and Achia Hashiloni, it was as if they were standing in front of the Shechina. כמובן בירושלמי, Ruvin, it's explained in the Yerushalmi, מפני שאחיה היו שכלו ומחשבותיו משוטטות ומדבקות בגדולת הבורא יתברך שמו. אחיה השילוני was this giant when it came to spirituality. His thoughts, his spirituality would spread out and was like contagious, right? It would like cling to everything on the greatness of Hashem. When Eliyahu would stand in front of his rabbi, Achia Shiloni, his thoughts are connected to the thoughts of his Rav, right? With the love of the heart. Therefore, if Achia Shiloni is standing in front of the Shekhinah because he's that lofty, and Eliyahu is just standing with his rabbi, but Eliyahu's mind and heart are connected to his rabbi, so then it's as if he's standing in front of the Shekhinah himself. Next one is from the Shuta Radbaz, this rabbi Radbaz. He has a Shuta, Sheilot V'Tshuvot, response to what it's called in English, right? He writes there, B'yota Adam mitkaven el Rabo, when a person has kavanah to connect with his Rav, V'noten elav libo, and he gives him his heart, Titkasher nafsho benafsho, his soul will be attached to his soul. Now the connector, the student, will start to have the shefa, the influence, the abundance that's coming down also on his soul. He gets an extra soul. Even more so if the Rav himself has the same intention. Meaning, it works one way, that you have intention to connect to your rabbi. If your Rav has his intention to also be connected to you, it's like a double bonus, right? It's working both ways. Next one is from the Shevet Musar. Shevet Musar is an amazing tzaddik. A tzaddik shedavuk imo yitbarach ubetorato. The tzaddik that is clinging to the tzaddik that's clinging to Hashem and to His Torah. Ena tumah chala alav. He can't have tumah on him. V'hu metaher acharim u'mekadsham. He purifies others and sanctifies them. Ki geza kedushahu lechen yikra hatzadik kedusha. He is the branch, so to say. He is the trunk, the tree trunk of what's called kedusha in the world, right? He's what roots it into the world, right? Brings it into the world, and therefore the tzaddik is called kedusha. The tzaddik himself is called holy. Ki huwa kedusha be'atzma. Because the tzaddik is the kedusha itself, right? He becomes the physical revelation of what's called kedusha into the world. Next source from Mesilat Yesharim, Brother Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzato, and he writes, right, exactly, the path of the just. לפחות יחידי הסגולה ימצאו אשר יכינו את עצמם הכנה גמורה. At least there are a minimum in the world these certain souls, these individual souls, special souls, that they prepared themselves so well. ועל ידי המוכנים יזכו גם הבלתי מוכנים אל אהבתו יתברך בהשראת שכינתו. they are so prepared to receive godly influence that the people that are not prepared will be able to receive from them the love of Hashem and the dwelling of the Shekhinah that comes down on the people that are ready, that are prepared to receive it. Next source from the Yaarot Dvash. Ha'isha olech achareihem, the person who goes after them, v'lo sar mechibatam v'yiratam, meaning after the tzaddikim, right? And he doesn't move away from loving them or from having awe of them, respect of them. Bevadai yechazeh benoam Hashem, for sure will see, he will have visions of the pleasantness of Hashem. Dibuk Talmid Chacham u'moro'o kedibuk Ashchina, clinging to a Talmid Chacham and having awe of him, respect of him, is like clinging to the Shekhinah, like we learned last week, right? The Gemara asks, how can you cling to the Shekhinah? The Shekhinah is Eshel Chala, it's this fire-consuming thing. How could you cling to that? Marry your daughter to a Talmid Chacham, do business with a Talmid Chacham, support a Talmid Chacham, do whatever you can to have a connection with Talmid Chacham, and you are as if, by way of clinging to them, as if you're clinging to the Shekhinah. Same thing he brings here. Next source is from Hagra, the Gaon Rabbi Eliyahu, the Vilna Gaon, says, Kol mitziut ashrat Shekhinah betachtonim. The whole entire reality of what's called the Shekhinah dwelling down here in this realm, urak bekoach sheyesh anashim hamikirim elokuto itbarach betachtonim be'emet, is only by way of the people that recognize and know godliness down here in truth. Meaning the only way that we experience godliness in this world is because there's people in this world that are really, really recognizing godliness and they know it. And because they have a real relationship with it, we're able to taste it here and there and experience it here and there. Next source, Chesed L'Avram, Hatzfati, Baruch Hashem. Chesed L'Avram was the Chida's 7th generation grandfather. He was a gur of the Ari, a cub of the Arizal, right? One of the students of the Ari, students of Rav Chaim Vital as well. And he says like this, Lefi ma shitkerev adam el ha'ovdim, ken hu mitabek besod ha'chaim ha'nitzchim. According to how much you come closer to the ovdim, to the workers, right? Meaning the tzaddikim, people that are really putting in work in this world, so too you cling to the secret of eternal life. He lived in Aza. Zat Hashem, Shiyam Taka. Chesed L'Avram. Tov. That's some sources. Okay? Now we're going into a part that's the two different types of itkashut. Be'emet yesh shnei derachim b'itkashut l'Rav. There's two ways you can connect to your Rav. Ki hamon ha'am mechapsim b'chinat melech. The majority of the nation, they're looking for some kind of king. They want a tzaddik that they'll be able to nullify themselves to him. By way of them nullifying themselves to the king, meaning to their Rav, to their tzaddik, right, and listening to whatever he says to do, it's as if they're nullifying themselves to Hashem. This tzaddik is the aspect of Shlomo sat on the throne of Hashem. Whose throne? The throne of Hashem. It's not Shlomo's throne. Right? So Shlomo was this king sitting on Hashem's throne. So anybody that would listen to the king is only an extension of the throne of Hashem. That's the general aspect of what's called the kingship of the house of David. What is the lofty side of the simple people of Am Yisrael? The fact that they connect themselves to a Rebbe. In a way that a person listens to what the Rav has to say and nullifies their will according to what the Rav has to say, right? Your Rav told you to do like this and this in business and it makes no sense to you, but you do it, right? And all of a sudden, you are nullifying yourself to the will of the Chacham. You will, in a sense, be tapping in more to the aspect of nullifying yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like it's explained in the Gemara, right? Like we said, can you really connect to the Shekhinah? Can you really attach yourself to the Shekhinah? No, attach yourself to the Talmidei Chachamim. This is the first level. This is the first step. You find a Rebbe, so you can nullify yourself to him and do whatever he says. He's like your king, right? This is the first fundamental level of itkashrut. Litbatel latzadik, to nullify yourself to the tzaddik. Ulidabek bedarko uberorotav, cling to his path and listen to his rulings, right? What he set out, the path that he's teaching, the approach to Avodat Hashem, and also if he gives halachot, if he says do this and don't do that, right? Chasidei Chabad, do this and we don't do that, whatever it is, right? So Chabadnikim, when they listen to that instruction, they are more on the path of the tzaddik. They're nullifying themselves to the 7 tzaddikim that came, right? V'zeh nikra hayom chasidim shel ploni. This is what it means when you say, right? Those are the chasidim of that Rebbe, right? This is that level that we're talking about, right? When you can look at a person and you say, oh, they're chasidim of that path, they're part of that path. That's the first level. Finding a Rebbe, following his path, listening to what he says, and so on and so forth. אמנם התלמידי חכמים והצדיקים מחפשים רב ומורה דרך, אבל לא מלך. The tzaddikim and the talmidei chachamim, right? Again, that first level was, again, I brought the example of Chabad, not because they're all simple, just because, an example, right? Is the first Hasid that popped in my head. But that's the first level. The simple people, they're looking for a Rebbe to listen to what he says to do. The people that are already learning Torah on a higher level, the people that are doing avodah themselves, they're looking for a Rav and for a guide, a spiritual guide, a tour guide through this world. Avalum melech, they're not looking for a king. On their level, the king is only Hashem. Meaning, their goal is itkashut laHashem yitbarach. Why do I come to a Rabbi? Why do I come to a tzaddik? Because I want to get to Hashem. They receive from the Rav how to acquire their goal, and the direction, and the guidance, and they receive, obviously the Rav is on a higher level, so they're receiving the light that's dwelling on him as well. And this is what's called Talmidim, right? The first level is Hasidim, and then you have Talmidim, students. One thing is to be a follower, one thing is to be a student. In the beginning of when you're doing your spiritual work, you're still not purified, you're still not holding on a spiritual level enough. On the level that the Shekhinah is dwelling upon you. Therefore you have to receive from the Rebbe. He should teach you Torah and teach you the ways of Hashem in the world. So that you have a connection and a straight download from Hashem. Chaim. Whoever wants to get to this level, first things first, you have to be Yoshua.
What's your name?
No, you have to be like Yehoshua. You have to be able to receive from the tzaddik. After you're Yoshua and you receive from the tzaddik and you're willing to receive because you realize you're not on the madriga yet, you're not there yet. After that you can ascend to be Moshe. Like Yoshua, that once Moshe passed from this world, he filled in the job. He became the leader of Am Yisrael, right? Footnotes on this.
Just start as a follower.
The way of receiving from the tzaddik is levels. There's step by step. In the beginning, you just look at his face. You just look at the radiance from his face. That the light of the Shekhinah is shining off of his face. You connect to his sanctity. You have intention to pull it down upon yourself, the sanctity of the Shekhinah. That the Shekhinah should also dwell upon you. Your whole intention is not about the human being. It's about the dwelling of the Shekhinah on this person. That the tzaddik himself is obviously nullified to the Shekhinah. He wouldn't, Chas v'Chalila, want you to think about him. He's thinking about the Shekhinah, right? He sees himself as nothing, like we learned last week. The Shekhinah is dwelling on him and revealed by way of him. Sometimes you merit to feel it, sometimes you don't. Like all different types of emotions, like all different types of feelings in Avodat Hashem. Sometimes you put on tefillin, you don't feel it, right? You just have a dead cow on your arm, like we like to say in the Chavurah, right? And sometimes you put on tefillin and you have straight dveikut to Hashem. כפי שהתבהר, like we've explained, right, in a different chapter. ואם יוכל צריך אחר כך, afterwards, if you're able, להפשיט את החיצוניות, to remove the external aspects of this, ולהתקשר להשגת נשמתו, and to connect to what the neshama of the tzaddik is really comprehending. כאילו הם נמצאים יחד במקום אחיזתו של הצדיק. As if your soul is there on the level of what he's downloading, you're there with him. As if. ואז יכוון שתשרה עליו הקדושה אשר שם. Then you have intention that it's not by way of the physical being that's right here in front of me. Where his neshama is rooted, if I'm really connected to him, my neshama is there with him. And I'm pulling that level of Shekhinah down on me. And the revelations of that are there where the neshama is rested. And what the elders said, that Yoshua, he was just Pnei Levana, he's just the face of the moon. This was a defilement, this was a blemish that they said against Yoshua. They didn't have full emunah in Yoshua like they should have. They treated him just as a student. They didn't treat him like he was Moshe. Therefore they didn't give him a proper eulogy when Yoshua passed. They treated him and they gave him a eulogy as if he was just a Talmid. Right? They didn't understand that no, he is Moshe Rabbeinu now. Moshe left, he is Moshe. He is the leader of the generation. He is your king, not Moshe Rabbeinu anymore. Obviously there's no Yeshua without Moshe, and there's no tzaddik at all without Moshe Rabbeinu. There's no Yid without Moshe Rabbeinu, right? But that is the case, that once he is the tzaddik, he is the tzaddik. You don't give him an esved, you don't give him a eulogy as if he's some Talmid. No, that's it, he went up a level, right? And then the mountain erupted on them because that's how they treated him when he's passing. It was specifically an eruption of a volcano from a mountain on top of them. This was their blemish. That's what the hint was. Why a volcano? Why a mountain exploding on them? This was their blemish. What is a mountain? A mountain is dirt. Right? Just like the mountain, what happens with a hill? All of a sudden, it's ground that from up it like shoots up. Not a lava volcano, but like a dirt volcano, right? That all of a sudden from the ground a mountain is made, right? Why did that happen to them? All of a sudden they got pushed from this mountain coming out of the ground. Because just like Yoshua has elevated himself like a mountain now, he's not a low level, he's not a plateau, he's now a mountain. He's the leader. Just like that, you should have understood that was the case. So the mountain itself lifted and threw all of the people there. For sure, what's the goal again? The Shekhinah needs to dwell on every single Yid, not just on the Tzaddik. The Shekhinah has to be on everybody. In the beginning, it has to pass through the Tzaddik. You cannot receive it without purifying yourself. Like we learned last week, if you're not on the level and you try to connect to the Shekhinah, the Shekhinah burns the bad that's inside of you. But if you're majority bad, you're just going to get consumed because you don't have enough good to stay in existence. The tzaddik, who's only good and he's already worked out of his bad, he doesn't have bad in him, when he clings in, now and you attach to him, now the Shekhinah that's coming through him is filtered and it slowly but surely burns away your bad. But it doesn't burn you completely, right? By having a connection with him, your midot start to get better. You start to become a better yid. You start to work more on your Hachamim, keeping halacha, learning Torah. More and more revelations because more and more bad is being removed from you. But if you try to do it yourself, and you actually come in contact with the Shekhinah, you get burnt. And if you're majority bad, that means you're majority dead. Right? And in Malasot here, we're playing with fire, literally. In order to receive this rectification, this purification, meaning to receive the ways of Torah, how to get out of the maze, this garden maze, and to be purified, you have to be a tzaddik, right? And again, tzaddik, his kavanah here is tzaddik of the Torah, that you're majority good and minority bad, right? Meaning you're at least 51%, 50.001% righteous, and the rest could be averot, but you're majority good, right? There's the tzaddik of the Tanya and of the Zohar, right? And then there's tzaddik of the Torah. Tzaddik of the Torah and Pshat means you are over 50% good. You have to be a tzaddik in order to really receive from the Shekhinah. Ki etzlo Shekhinah nimtzet, right? The tzaddik is where the Shekhinah is dwelling. Therefore, only he knows the ways of Hashem's dwelling in every generation. After the Talmid is merited by way of his rabbi, the Shekhinah, and he gets the Shekhinah, as I was with Moshe, I will be with you. For sure there's levels and levels of purification and of light of Hashem dwelling on you. That was the idea of the two ways to connect. Which are which? Who can we summarize them again? Two ways to connect. That means I didn't do a good job. One is the way of a Hasid.
Oh,
right?
The way of the Talmid, yeah.
Hasid and Talmid. What is the Hasid looking for?
The closeness to the Creator.
The king.
He's looking for the closest.
Everyone should be looking for the closest Creator, right? But
he's doing it to a Rebbe because he doesn't want to get burned.
He's doing it to a Rebbe because he's not on the level yet, right? He's not on the level yet, so therefore he's looking for a rabbi that can tell him what to do and what not to do, right? And he nullifies himself simply to the Rebbe because he's a simple Yid, so he nullifies himself to the Rav, and that's like him nullifying to Hashem. But then you have people that are already doing avodah. They're already rooted. They're already resting in the avodah. They're doing their spiritual work. They're living the life, right? They're not looking for some guy to There's not disrespectful. They're not looking for a rabbi to be a king for them. They're looking for a Rav that can give them advice, that can help them in their avodat Hashem, right? And that they can receive from. They can receive ways to purify themselves more. Why? Because their king is Hashem. There's no confusion here, right? The king is Hashem. The way of the Torah is that you always have to have a rabbi, right? You have to have a rabbi. Even Moshe Rabbeinu had a rabbi. His name was Matat, right? Everybody has a rabbi. Next is Shadchan.
What was his name?
It's an angel. Memtet Tet. You look it up after. No, I don't. I don't know.
So
I'm not saying no, I just don't know.
So this Sefer is giving us two ideas how to go about things, or it's giving us suggestions?
No, it's not a suggestion. You have to go on both levels. You have to go in the first verse. In the beginning, when you're starting an Avodat Hashem, you have to just be a simple Yid and find a Rav. Find a path in Avodat Hashem. Nullify yourself to a tzaddik. After a while, you're going to start to be rooted in Avodah. Right? When you get to that level, it's not about looking out for some Rebbe that's going to be your king and tell you what to do and what not to do. It should now be that you have this one-on-one with Hashem.
Now you got to do the work.
You're already doing the work if you got into that level, and then it's not about always like at that point. It's not necessarily like, again, this is just an example, right? Let's say in Chabad they say you don't do this thing, right? And for you've been doing avodah and you've been connected. You were mekarev through Chabad, right? You found a tzaddik. You started to listen to the Rebbe and his teachings, right? And now you're at a point where you're holding and you have certain emotions about different mitzvot. Chabad does it this way, and you feel really connected to doing it this way. For example, the ashlag way or whatever, right? That's certain avodah. You like to do it in the ashlag way. You're holding. Huh?
Sleeping in the sukkah.
Sleeping in the sukkah, right? The Am Yisrael way. Right? Sleeping in the sukkah. You feel connected to that avodah. So now are you looking for the level of king where it's you do this or off with your head? You're not holding there. You're trying to connect with Hashem. Sleeping in the sukkah is an avodah. The Am Yisrael does, and it's completely kosher. Right? So it's no longer looking about being completely nullified to whatever the Rebbe says.
But in the beginning, you know.
In the beginning, you have to do it. In the beginning, you have to find your Rebbe, and you have to clean out your shmutz, start to level up. At a certain point, why do you have a Rav? To ask the questions that you need to this, right? And it's for sure, whoever has a connection with tzaddikim, specifically living tzaddikim that you can be able to, right, to go and talk to and have this back and forth with and to talk about what you're going through in life, you know that even if they have a path, if you ask them about a certain other path and you're hot about it, you want it, most likely they're never going to tell you, no, don't do that. If it's an okay thing within halacha. Most likely they'll tell you, if you feel it, Go for it. Ah, but you wear this and you wear that and you're part of this camp. Beseder. Are you keeping halacha? Or is it the thing bringing you closer to Hashem? Most likely, that's what we're going to give you answers. I've experienced this with a few other people, and I know other people have gone through this as well, right? A tzaddik, he wants you to come closer to Hashem. That's his job. It's not about him. It's not about his path, and it's not about anything about him. It's about coming closer to Hashem. So if you come to a tzaddik with I feel like I should be doing this avoda, right? Today is, we can bring an example. Today is Rav Shlomo Kalibach's Ilula, right? It was. Rav Shlomo had a path that he was destined to go on. At the time, he was a Chabad Hasid. When he came to the Rebbe about what he was going to do, what did the Rebbe tell him? Not in our camp. Meaning, he didn't tell him no. He didn't say, you're not going to do that thing. He could have. The Rebbe's the Rebbe. He mamash was like a king in his lifetime for his Hasidim, right?
Still is.
He could have told him outright, don't do that thing. He didn't. He said, not with our flag. You get me? He wasn't closing the door on him. He's just saying, I prefer if you don't do it under our name, right? The avodah needs to be done, right? So this is the idea. In the beginning, the thing is straight up bitul. Get a Rav, you treat him like a king, what he says, or off with my head, right? At a certain point, the goal is not to be not to be like that. The goal is to get to Hashem. When you have a relationship with Hashem and you're keeping halacha and you're already on the level of what's called a tzaddik, right? Now it's you and Hashem. What's the Rav there for? To be a guide. And a guide, again, he's a guide. He's not forcing you. He's not telling you anything. He's guiding you. You make the decisions. You're the one doing the avodah. He's just guiding you along the path. He's giving you adveitzot, and you're receiving shechina by way of him, right?
So what comes first?
First is the Talmid, is the Hasid. First Hasid, then Talmid. Again, what's a Hasid? I don't think. I take off my head, and my head's by the Rebbe. Whatever he tells me, that's what goes. After that, when you're a Talmid, you're already trying to learn. You're already trying to... And why do we learn in Judaism? In order to do, not to keep in theory. Right? When I'm already trying to download things, it's a different ballgame. Right? And then we're in a different gear here. There it's already... I need a navigator. I'm the pilot. You get me? In a sense. Right? Obviously, we have to be fine with what we're saying. We're talking about tzaddikim, right? But that, according to what we're saying here, first comes to being a chassid. Zenika chassid shel ploni. Right? He's a chassid of that camp. How does he identify himself? A chassid of that camp. After that is a Talmid. He's a Talmid of that Rav. That doesn't mean you have to do everything like that Rav. For example, the tzaddik that we're learning from, Rav Itchemeyer, you go inside his Torah, in Torah Chacham, you go inside his Beit Midrash, you see every color possible. Every type of shtreimel, spodek, hat, no hat, kippah suga, kippah this, kippah that. Look at this chabura, right? Trying to learn. We're trying to get closer to Hashem. Not necessarily do everything that he's saying, right? Next is the idea of a shadchan. זהו עניין ההתקשרות לצדיקים, להתקשר לשכינה ששורה לצדיק. The idea of connecting tzaddik is to connect to the shechina that is dwelling upon him. כי השכינה שורה לצדיק ולא בהתלבשות בתוך גוף הצדיק, חס ושלום. The light of the light of the shechina that's dwelling on the tzaddik, it's dwelling upon him. בהתלבשות, it's like a garment. ולא בהתלבשות בתוך הגוף, חס ושלום. It's not his body, God forbid, that is the Shekhinah. It's not him, God forbid. It's a light that's surrounding him. It's a light that's dwelling upon him. אלא היא רק שורה עליו בדרך מעבר. It's dwelling upon him. Like he's a transmitter, so to say. Right? It's not him. ואדם רגיל לא יכול לקבל את אורה. A regular person couldn't receive this light. כי אינו ראוי, because he's not fitting, he's not on the level like we learned last week. ורק על ידי שאנו מקשרים את עצמנו להיות אחד עם הצדיק שהשכינה שורה עליו, only by way of us being one with the tzaddik that the shechina is dwelling upon him, אזי גם לנו יש שייכות אליה. Then we also have this relationship with the shechina. והיא שורה גם עלינו לפי ערכנו. And then she also dwells upon us according to our level, right? According to our merit. ויש בזה מדרגות על גבי מדרגות, there's levels upon levels here, כי גם מי שיש לו קצת השראה, צריך ללכת לצדיק הגדול ממנו. Even someone who has a little bit of a dwelling of the shechina on him, he has to go on a bigger tzaddik than him. You always have to have someone that's above you. That's the way. כדי לקבל ממנו את המדרגה הגבוהה יותר, right? In order to get the next level up, or pnimi or makif. When the makif becomes pnimi, you get a new makif. when you start to level up, what becomes internalized inside of you, that's not where it ends. Now you just received a new level. The truth is that all of the neshamot of Am Yisrael are stacked one on top of the other, and they're not side by side. There's no groups. It is a ladder. Every neshama is one on top of the other. When the ladder moves up, everybody moves up. When a person brings down the ladder, he brings everyone down. That's how it goes, right? That's mamash how it is. You can push the whole world up, you can bring the whole world down. Yeah, you tip the scale. When you move up, you're moving everyone up, and that's a good thing. Keep that in your mind. So if that's the case, then the tzaddik is like a shadchan. He's like a stapler. He's like a connector, matchmaker. אין עניין התקשרות מצד הצדיק עצמו, אלא מה שמתקשרים אליו זה רק כי על ידו יכולים לזכות להתחבר לשכינה. We don't want to connect to the tzaddik because he is the goal. He's a tool. He can help us connect to the Shekhinah. He is the connector. He's the stapler. No one wants a stapler just to have a stapler. We want a stapler in order to put two things together. That's the goal, right? So what is the tzaddik? He's the stapler.
The channel.
Yeah. Next level is Ibur. Now we're going to get a little bit deep, some Sfari stuff. ודע שחלק מתועלת ההתקשרות היא שזוכה שמתנוצץ בו הדת וההערה של הצדיק. Part of connecting to a tzaddik is that you merit that you have a sparkle of the dat, of the consciousness, and the illumination of that tzaddik. ויש בזה מדרגות רבות. There's many levels to this. וכללותם נקראת עיבור. Whenever you have a spark of a tzaddik come inside of you to start to help your soul spiritually, in general that's called an ibur. Ibur in Hebrew means a fetus. Right? Like in pregnancy. An embryo. Embryo, sorry. In pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
Right? Ubar is a fetus, yeah. Right? So you ibur, right? You have some spark of him that comes into your being, like a woman has a fetus, an embryo inside of her. That's something that's not her, inside of her, and connected, right? The mother gets sick, the baby gets better, the baby gets sick, the mother gets right? The mother starts to give off energy to it. They have a huge connection. They're so to say one, but they're not one, right? It's clear that they're not one, but they are. They act as if they're one. Like it's written in Shabbat, Masechet Shabbat, Haba lete'er, misein oto. You want to purify yourself? You want to come closer and come closer to Hashem? They start to help you. What does that mean? In the Midrash Ne'elam, Shar Gilgulim, it says, שמסייעים אותו על ידי נשמות הצדיקים, שמתעברים בו לסייעו בעבודת הבורא. How do they help you to become more holy? When you want to purify yourself, they say they help you from heaven. How do they help you? They literally take a spark of a neshama, of a tzaddik, and they impregnate you, so to say, with that neshama to help you in avodat Hashem. ולזה אפשר לזכות על ידי שמתקשר בנשמות הצדיקים. You can do this by way of connecting yourself to the souls of the tzaddikim. נפש בנפש, רוח ברוח, נשמה בנשמה. Right? Why is it said that way? נפש בנפש, רוח ברוח, נשמה נשמה. Because when it comes to the actual yichud, that most of the Hachamim of our generation tell us not to do this yichud anymore, but there is called the yichud ishtatchut, right? Prostration on the grave of a tzaddik. The intention that you do there is nefesh b'nefesh, ruach b'ruach, neshama b'neshama, right?
Why we're not supposed to do it in our generation?
Because if you really are on that level, then you don't need to be told you don't need to do it. You can go and do it. As long as you're not on the level where you really know what you're doing.
It looks weird.
No, it's not about not only
like kiss and a kiss includes
the reason they tell us not to do this is because this is a very lofty practice that if you mess up, you're playing with fire again. It's not like now that you listen to this, you're going to go lay down in the Arizal's kever and try to do this. I advise you highly not to do this, because if you try to pull a neshama and you miss your direction, you're going to pull a neshama. Trust me. It's just not going to be the Arizals.
So your vessel may not be able to take it.
Huh?
You don't have the kelim.
You don't have the vessel, exactly. This is lofty Kabbalah we're talking about, right?
Arizal, yeah.
Huh? The difference is, if you look in the beginning of Minchat Yehuda of Rav Yehuda Ftaya and Chotem Saprot, he explains the difference between how he was talking to Dibukim and to Neshamot from Kafakela and to Tzadikim and asking them what's going on in Olam HaMet, and what's the difference between those where he would actually invite the Neshama and do a tikkun to them, right? Like Ben Gurion and like a whole bunch of other people, that he went out of his way to try to give them Natana Azati, that was Shabtai Yimachshimo, was his name?
This was a lachet.
It's completely okay. Why? Because he's doing it not from Tuma, he's doing from Kedusha with Shemot HaKodesh. When people do seances, they have to bring down Tuma on themselves. That's why they go to the graveyard, that's why they take a hair, that's why they take a nail, that's why they do these different things of Tuma. In Kedusha, you just have to use holy names and to use Tehillim and Ruach HaKodesh on the side of Kedusha. And you can do it, and your kavanah is in order to help the Neshama and not to do negativity to the Neshama. Right? Then you're on the side of Kedusha. Everything that you have in Tuma, you have in Kedusha. This world is equal, right? If you have a way to connect holy way to a soul, obviously you have a way to do it negatively, right? So the fact that you know about seances and negative stuff and Ouija boards and stuff like that, obviously it exists on the other side. What's a Ouija board? A bunch of letters. What is Kabbalah and Tzirufim of Otiyot? A bunch of letters, right? So you have both ways. Onwards, when you do this and you connect in a kosher way, and you get an ibur, then you can get to the level of Dat Moshe Rabbeinu, Veshel Shara Tzadikim, and the rest of the Tzadikim, Shemegalim Elukutob Itbarach Ba'olam, that they are revealing the godliness in the world. That's ibur. Ha'omek. Lefi Gedulat Hashem Itbarach, Ei Efshar Ledabek Bo Ela B'Nekiyut. The depth here is, according to the greatness of Hashem, you cannot cling to Hashem if you're not clean, physically and spiritually. העומק העניין שצריך להתקשר לשכינה דרך הצדיק הוא כי באמת בשביל לעבוד את השם יתברך כראוי וכל שכן בשביל לזכות להיות מרכבה לשכינה הקדושה. The depth here is that in order to connect to Hashem properly, right, it has to the Shekhinah properly, it has to be by way of the tzaddik. Because the truth is, to really do this properly is only if you merit to be a vehicle to the Shekhinah. צריך להיות נקי ומזוכח לגמרי. You have to be clean and purified completely. כי רק כך מתגלית פנימיות האמיתית. That's the only way that the true inner avodah that we're talking about here is actually revealed. ואם האדם אומר, if the person says, אני צריך להתקשר לצדיק, I don't have to connect to the tzaddik, אלא אני עצמי אגיע לשכינה. Me, myself, I can get to the shechina. Right? A lot of people that learn only pshat in Judaism, they say, nah, why would I ever need a rabbi? So I could talk to Hashem myself. Which is true. That's the deepest Kabbalah that you could talk to Hashem yourself. Right? But there's levels to this. Whoever says this, it's a disgrace, it's a disrespect, so to say, to the Shekhinah. You think you can come into the chambers of the king wearing weekday clothing? Wearing sak is even less than that, right? Sackcloth. You think you can come in with your field work clothing? That's how you can approach the king's chamber? It's a bit disrespectful, no? In any world. The Shekhinah is going to dwell in a place that's filled with sin, this place that's dirty, God forbid. באמת אי אפשר. כי במקום מלא לכלוך ועבירות ותאוות, בפרט תועבת מידת הגאווה, אין השכינה הקדושה יכולה לדור שם. The truth is that it's impossible in a place filled with dirt, filled with sins, filled with lusts, specifically when it comes to ga'ava, pride. The Shekhinah cannot dwell in a place like that. לכן, כדי להצליח להידבק בשכינה, therefore, in order to really be successful in clinging to the Shekhinah, you have to submit yourself and connect to the tzaddikim. You have to give in. You have to nullify yourself. בכך האדם אומר, and when he does that, the person says, עם כל מה שהשגתי, with all of what I've comprehended and I've achieved in my spiritual journey, אני רחוק מאוד מניקיון אמיתי. I'm very far from true cleanliness. ואני מבין שאי אפשר להתחבר לשכינה. I understand it's impossible for me to connect to the Shekhinah without complete ta'ara. ta'ara גמורה, complete purity. כי ברור לי, it's clear to me, בשביל לזכות להשראת השכינה, באמת צריך להיות אדם שלם. Really, to connect to the Shekhinah, you have to be a full person. You have to be a full אדם. אלא שאני עדיין לא הצלחתי להגיע לזה. I still haven't merited to get to that. ובינתיים, and in the meantime, אני לא רוצה להישאר בחוץ. I don't want to stay outside of the game. I don't want to be outside. לכן אני הולך לקבל את הדרך הצדיק. Therefore, I'm going to receive it by way of the tzaddik. שהוא נקי לגמרי. He is completely clean. לפי ערכי, according to my value, my level, where I'm holding, ויש לו הכרה מוחלטת בייחוד השם. He has full comprehension of the oneness and the unity of Hashem. וביטול מוחלט, and he's completely nullified to Hashem. ולכן אצלו השכינה שרויה, therefore the Shekhinah is dwelling by him. ועל ידו יזכה גם אני, and by way of him I will also merit. כמו שכתב הר"ן בדרשותיו, like the Ran wrote, שבכוח המוכנים יזכו גם הבלתי מוכנים. In the power of those who are prepared and ready to receive, those who are not ready to receive will also receive. משל המשלחת שרוצה להיכנס למלך. Example is a group of people, right? What's it called? A mission... ambassadors, right? A group of ambassadors, right? No, but multiple.
Missionaries.
a group of ambassadors, right, that are coming to go talk to the king.
Delegation.
A delegation. That's the word. That's literally the word. A delegation. Not this something. Delegation. A delegation that is going on a mission right now in order to say something to the king. But they're dirty. They for sure won't let them go in to the king. If there's one he's clean, he came in a suit. And the king loves him. He's dressed properly, he's loved. By way of having that one guy that's clean, everyone will go in. Even though that he's the main thing. By way of going in, once they're in there in overalls and jeans, they're going to realize that they should have worn a suit. It would have been better if they could actually put on a suit, right? This is, by the way, whoever was in the club life and ever went out to parties, this is the way. This is the way. You have that one guy that has the in, you could be dressed however you want, right? If you have that guy with you, and the selector in the door likes him, you're in, right? Even though a club is probably still better than the UN delegations and assemblies. The depth here is this is not just like, by the way of the tzaddik. It's not just like, oh, by the way, I'll go to that tzaddik because, he's holy, and just like, by the way, I'll go be by him. When you do this properly, you're revealing that you understand what needs to be according to your comprehension, and you are aspiring towards it. By way of your aspirations and you understanding where you should be in life, you manage to go in with the tzaddik. When you nullify yourself to the tzaddik, you reveal what should properly be. How should it be? I know I'm where I am. I know where he is. I need to go in with him. I have no other way. When you do that, you're already expressing internally about yourself more than you are about him. I know I should be more like him. I know I should be cleaner. I know I should be wearing a suit. When you do this, you're saying, I also want to be holy. I also want to have enough merit to do it myself. Just because he has that internal emotion, by way of doing it, by way of connecting to a tzaddik, because you're just admitting, by way of doing that you're not on the level yet. By way of this, you're expressing your truer, deeper desires and your goals and your aspirations, then you also merit. You know the truth, you recognize the truth, and you have an aspiration towards it. And if a person wants to know if he's going on a straight path and with Emunat, you should see if you hold importance to all the tzaddikim. All the people that are serving Hashem. You give respect to all of the tzaddikim. A lot of holy people in this world that are doing avodah. How do you treat them? In your mind, what do you think about them? A person could be a giant in Torah, like Doeg and Achitofel, right? And they have no portion in the world to come at all. They had machloket against the tzaddik. They went against David HaMelech. He is the point of the internal aspect of what is the work of, what is the service of Hashem. Nikudat HaShechina, it's the point of Shechina. כי אצלם היה העיקר רק ההצלחות החיצוניות ולא תפסו בכלל שיש בהם איזה חיסרון פגם. The whole thing for Doeg and Achitofel, the whole thing for the people that are giant Torah scholars but they're not willing to connect to a holy person, they think it's all about downloading more Torah. I finished Shas a bunch of times. I just read this book. I know this much Torah. Yeah, but can you shut up and nullify yourself to a person that's bigger than you? even if he hasn't learned as much Torah than you, he's just holier than you. He's done internal work that gives him more of a merit than all of your Torah learning. He can't give you sources here, here, and here, and here. He doesn't remember every page, but he's a mensch, and the Shekhinah is clearly dwelling on him. Even though this person is still dirty, right? And he has this aspiration to be better, and he shows it by connecting to the tzaddik. The schut of the tzaddik that he's connected to is standing there for it. Hey, he's with me. Yeah, he looks the way he looks, but he's with me. So there's two things when it comes when you nullify yourself to the tzaddik. And this one is deeper than this one. One is, even though I'm dirty, by way of the tzaddik, I get in. I get inside the chambers and in his merit. And the second thing is, I need to show that at least I understand what it should be. And I have an aspiration to get there. I chapped it, I get it. He was allowed in and I only got in because I was with him. I have no right to get into here without him. Connections. But not connections for the sake of having connections. That you could be that person that's connection. You could be the one. You should be the one that could get in by yourself. But now you're not. You're not there yet. So at least connect to the successful people, like Rabbi Nachman says, right? Connect to the successful people. That was a big piece of advice from Rabbi Nachman way before Tony Robbins brought it down, right? Or anybody in business brought it down. Whoever thinks we're nearly done. A few more paragraphs, right? One more page, sorry. Whoever thinks that he in his low stature is fitting to cling to the Shekhinah, for sure will not put in the effort needed to connect to a tzaddik. He doesn't even understand what level of purity you need. What is true unity? What is the true oneness of Hashem? He's still holding in klipot, according to his level. The truth is, in his actions, he's lacking a lot. Like the Zohar says, the Holy Zohar, that's going to bring us out of the Galut and into Geula. Torah and mitzvot without awe and love do not ascend up above. Right? The mitzvah needs to be shalem, it needs to be whole. You love Hashem and you have complete awe of Hashem. That's the only way your mitzvot will ascend. All of this is from the mercy and the loving kindness of Hashem. He says to every single Jew, you do according to your ability. Do as much as you can. Run as far as you can. And then, even though that's still not in proper cleanliness, you ran as far as you could. You did as much as you could. And it's still not the perfect thing. Because you are who you are. Right? According to your level, you are who you are. Then Hashem says, now there's another level. Connect to the one who's completely clean. Now you will be included within his avodat Hashem, shi avodah mitit, which is true avodah. And I will hold it down. I will check it off. The report card will say A. Why? Because you connected to the guy that was really straight A's. Right? You sat next to him, like in class, I tell you, right? Sit next to the smart kid. Right? Imagine if you sat next to him, you didn't have to do so much. You just had to show up every day for attendance, and then you got a perfect grades, right? Imagine if you could do that. Gewalt. It's only if you really have emunah in the tzaddik. And on his level. You believe that there is such a possibility. There is such an idea. And this is how it should be. By way of this emunah, you connect to the idea. Last little footnotes here. On the idea of what the Zohar said, that avodah mitzvot that are not done with awe and fear, awe and love do not ascend above. Footnote. They don't ascend, they don't take off, exactly. There's those that these kind of things, they kind of startle you, they bother you. ויטענו שהרי השם יתברך אוהב כל יהודי. They could say Hashem loves every single Jew. וכל אחד הוא בנו יחידו ממש. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Thanks for talking.
וכל אחד הוא בנו יחידו ממש. Everyone is Hashem's unique only son, right? Each one of us are the one only child Hashem has. ואפילו מי שנפל חס ושלום לשאול תחתיות, even he who fell to the depths of hell, Hashem יתברך איתו, Hashem's with him. Right? You could say this. השוכן איתם בתוך טומאתם. Hashem who dwells with them in their impurities. גם לימודונו רבותינו שכל מעשה טוב. The rabbis also taught us that any good action, הכי קטן, the smallest thing, חשוב מאוד בעיני השם יתברך. It's very important to Hashem. ואיך אמרנו שהעבודה מתקבלת רק בשלמות הנקיות? So then how could we come and say that the avoda is only accepted with complete cleanliness? If everything we do is completely precious by Hashem, how could only be the things that are completely done with perfection are the ones that are accepted? אבל צריך לשים לב, you have to pay attention. שיש שני חלקים בעבודת השם. There's two parts in עבודת השם. ונגדירם בבחינת אבינו ובבחינת מלכנו. Define them as Avinu, our father, and Malkenu, our king. Ha'aba mekarev et beno. The father brings his son closer in any situation that is. No matter what happens, Tati is bringing you in. Aval HaMelech lo ma'amid et beno ben sarei ha'memshala ela im ken hu ra'ui lekach. A king will only make the son a prince and put him amongst the ministers if he's fitting, if he's ready, if he's fitting. והנה יהודי יכול להשתמש באהבת השם אבינו. The Jew could use the love of Hashem, which is the side of אבינו. כשהוא עובד בכל כוחו, when you're using all of your might, you full force, אבינו, בחלק של מלכנו, right? When you're putting all your force in, the side of מלכנו. אבל אם הוא עושה ככל העולה על רוחו, אז גם הלב לא מתקבל. If you're doing whatever you feel comfortable doing, whatever you feel like doing, I wake up this day, tomorrow I'm not going to wake up, I do this, it's optional shacharit, right? When you do that, that's not accepted. That's not okay. לכן נכון שהשם יתברך אוהב כל יהודי. It's true. Hashem loves every single Jew. Okay, ben yechid mamash. As if you're a single son, you're an only son, only child. But when it comes to avoda, when it comes to being a worker, a minister, a person that has responsibility in a job in the cabinet, אפשר להשתמש בחלק הזה רק אם עושים את החלק השני בשלמות. You can only use the side of the love if you're doing the avoda perfectly. Right? If you're really doing the work that needs to be doing, meaning you're keeping your halacha through the day, then yeah, Hashem's avinu, meaning you messed up a little bit, but you're trying your best, no problem. Come here, my son. You're not like the rest of the ministers. You're my son. Come here. Right? But if you're not doing your job, how could you expect to have that just the loving side of Hashem? Since it's impossible straight away to get to perfection, therefore you have to do everything in your power, and in the rest you cling to the tzaddik. If you avoid the side of Malkenu, that Hashem is a king and he's demanding something from you, he gave you orders, it's a very, very grave mistake because you need both sides. This is the difference between talking to Hashem to praying to Hashem. When it comes to tefillah, 18, shacharit, mincha, arvit, there's a lot of conditions, there's a lot of halachot. There's a lot of things that go into it. You had to have gone to the bathroom, you can't have any mess on you, right? You can't have drink too much. You can't this, you can't that, you can't the other. What do they tell us? The rabbis tell us when you come to the Amidah, you are standing in front of the king. The king, not your father, the king. Without awe and love, that tefillah is not going so much far. But to talk to Hashem generally throughout your day, in any way you are, however you find yourself, in the depths of Gehenom, in the heights of Gan Eden, no matter who you are, what you've done, what the situation is, you can talk to Hashem. And it's going to be accepted. Hashem loves every single Jew. In any situation you can call out to him and you can cling to Hashem. Tefillah is a defined path of what's called avoda, work, melech, the king. Therefore there's rules and conditions. Omed lifnei hamelech. You have to have in your mind, you are standing in front of the king. Talking to Hashem, that's already developing our internal, interpersonal relationship. Right? That's already me and you, Hashem. That's already, that's Avinu, that's my father, Abba. Azov, stop for a second. Abba, I love you. I messed up big time, but it's Abba. I'm talking to you as Abba right now. Right? It's not Shacharit right now. You can do whatever you want then.
That's only if you daven Shacharit.
Again, right?
That's what you're saying. Only if you have the Malkenu is Shacharit, like.
You might find yourself that for a long time you haven't been doing, right? Let's say a person goes off the derech. For many years he hasn't been praying Shacharit, he hasn't been doing anything. And then he has one true Avinu talk. If it's a true talk to Avinu, if you really love your father and you felt like you disrespected him and you're asking for your help to come back now, then your next step needs to go back into Malkenu. Right? If you're sincere, right, and it's coming from the heart, and you really mean what you're saying after saying sorry for so many years, the right thing would to put on tefillin for 2 minutes and to do the Malkenu side of keeping a mitzvah, right? To start to put on tzitzit, to start keeping Shabbat, to start whatever you can according, again, to your level. But if you're not willing to even begin the process, then how sincere was the Avinu side? How sincere was your Yidbodedut if you never really did anything to change your situation?
It's like the way I'm thinking about it is that if you ask like your parent, like I want this for dinner and I want that and this is my day, as opposed to Abba, I want to borrow $100 million. You're going to speak differently. You're going to dress differently. You're going to approach it very
Your room's going to be clean. Right. You're going to wait 2 weeks of really good behavior before.
And you're not even going to jump in. You're going to say, "You have a minute. Can I talk to you?"
Here's the bottle of whiskey. Can we sit down? For sure, in every tefillah, right? It's not just avodah, some kind of dry thing. In every tefillah, there's dibur, there's talking with Hashem, which is the aspect of Avinu, right? In every dibur, there's Avinu. The tzaddikim, when they come to do tefillah, how do they do it? Like a slave in front of the king. Therefore, specifically when it comes to tefillah, right? The avodah of tefillah, there's a special idea of connecting to the tzaddikim. Right? Why is that so important to say? And when it comes to tefillah, to bring down Yeshua, to bring down Shalom, to bring down Geshem, to bring down healing, to bring down Geula, to bring down Slicha, right? To bring down all of these things that we say in those 19 blessings, to really do that, there's conditions. Not everybody can really do that stuff, right? So therefore, when you come to pray, there is even more special, more important to be connected to the tzaddikim. Last footnote, last 4 paragraphs and we're done. Therefore, anything that's above the level of where you're holding as a person, it's not really on your level that you should be dealing with this. You have to connect to the tzaddikim. It's only by way of connecting to the tzaddikim that you have some kind of relationship, some kind of way to even talk about that thing, right? This is the secret of what right now is going to be revealed in the next upcoming weeks. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning, that the Geula will be al yedei Mashiach. What does it mean? In the first Geula, Hashem said, "It's me and not a malach. It's me and not an angel. It's me and no one else." Moshe Rabbeinu was the one talking to Paro. So Hashem said, "It's me and no one else. I'm taking you out of Egypt." So what was Moshe doing exactly? And the first Geula is like the last Geula. So why are we praying? Why do we need a Mashiach? Again, even in your will, for Mashiach, it has to be for the revelation of what Mashiach is bringing, which is Hashem and Yichud in the world, right? But why do we need a Mashiach? Ki lichora yesh lishol. Lama tzrich sheyeh adam tzadik. Why should a person be righteous? Shu yeh goel. That he should be the goel. El Hashem yitbarach yichol legalenu. Hashem could be the one that redeems us. Velashrot shchinato betochenu, and to make His shchina dwell amongst us. Gam bli shaliach, also without a messenger. Hashem could do whatever He wants. Why does He need a person to show up and to do this? וכן יש לשאול בגאולת מצרים ומתן תורה שנעשו על ידי משה רבנו. Right? גאולת מצרים, giving of the Torah, it was done by way of the hand of Moshe. The answer is, הגאולה אינה רק זמן שבו השם יתברך ינהיג את העולם באופן אחר. גאולה is not only a time where Hashem will lead the world in a different way, אלא היא אור חדש, it's a new revelation, it's a new light. והשגה חדשה שתתגלה בעולם, it's a brand new comprehension of what the world is. It's going to be revealed in the world. ותאיר את העולם, it's going to illuminate the world. באור אמיתי, with true light. ומכוחה כולם יחיו את האמת. By way of that revelation, everyone's going to live the truth. The honor of Hashem and the oneness. וכדי שהשם יתברך יגלה את האור החדש בעולם, צריך שיהיה לפחות אדם אחד שיהיה ראוי לקבל את האור החדש הזה. In order for Hashem to even bring that whole energy to the world, that new consciousness to the world, there has to be at least one person who's fitting to receive it. One person who understands what that even means. B'shlemut, completely. V'hu melech HaMashiach. That is the King Mashiach. V'kumikoach zeh, by way of that, by way of the ability that there is this one person in the world that could do it, shemerkava v'kli, that he could be a chariot, a vehicle, and a tool to reveal it, lekabel et or, to receive that light and to bring it into the world, like we learned, right? The tzaddik, the navi, is the one that receives, he clings to Hashem, and then he can give it to his students. The rabbi receives a message and he gives it off to his students. It's not about him, he's just a pipe. If there's not that one pipe, Am Yisrael won't be able to receive it. Kol echad lefi madrikato, everyone according to their level. This was the same idea with leaving Egypt, the exodus out of Egypt, and the receiving of the Torah. Therefore, the Torah is called Torat Moshe Avdi, the Torah of Moshe, my servant. Only because of the level of Moshe was the Torah given by Hashem to Am Yisrael. עד כאן היום, בזכות כל הצדיקים, בזכות כל הפצועים, בזכות כל השבויים, בעזרת השם. We have someone to say Kaddish, would you? Would you say Kaddish? No?
I could say Kaddish.
Yeah? רבי חנניה כאשר אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר.